Trustees of the town of Vista. Do you want me to repeat that, Philip?
Go for it.
I call this meeting to order for the Board of Trustees of the town of Buena Vista. Can we have roll call, please?
Mayor Lacy.
Here.
Trustee Fay.
Yes, here.
Trustee Lucrezi.
Here.
Trustee Nyberg.
Here.
Trustee Rowe. Trustee Swisher.
Here.
Trustee Wilkie.
Thank you all. Will you please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all very much, and thank you everybody for coming out tonight. I please remind you to silence your cell phone or turn it off. First item in the packet is the agenda adoption. Any questions on or additions, deletions on the agenda? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
Second, Nyberg, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. I lost you, Paula. I was looking, you were behind Libby and I'm going, oh no, she's not here. Okay, next item is consent agenda. Any questions, comments about consent agenda? And I'll just point out the resolution with Molitor. Just want to point that out, make that public comment. Reading through it falls within the guidelines, everything approved. Right? That helps with, when did we do that, Philip? 2 years ago?
Correct.
Yep. Makes it slick. Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve or deny.
We approve the consent agenda.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Swisher. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, thank you very much. Next, we have public comment. Citizens are asked. I have nobody signed up here. Michael will watch for you, but you can join public comment on Zoom. If you're on your phone, you may press *9, and the meeting host will prompt you to unmute when it's your turn to speak. You can send an email in, which preferably you had already done that. And you can send that to bbclerk, buenavistaco.gov to speak. One item I do want to point out, it was brought to our attention, there's some chat going on underlying in the Zoom, which is not pertaining to the meeting. It's people chatting amongst each other. That is being monitored by our system, and we will not bring that forward unless it is actually for public. If it's just banter, for example, people in the audience want to talk to each other, that's fine. That's chat. That's not meeting stuff. You're not recognized that way. Just wanted to bring that up. Do we have anybody that we see, Philip?
I don't see anyone through chat or by raising a hand.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I close public comment. First business item or first item, next item on the agenda is staff reports, town administrator.
Yes, good evening, everybody. So my memo is on page 41 of the packet. Just a little intro statement there. I appreciate our current board here and the momentum that I sense is coming. On the agenda tonight are some very important topics. Primarily the water master plan, and I foresee a lot of good policy discussions coming out of that. We had a fantastic tour of our water treatment plant and water system this past week, and had a great representation from the board and some of our key staff. And it just getting that that understanding of our water system, understanding of our challenges ahead with both our infrastructure and water rights and looking at growth and things like that. I'm just really excited to hear the engagement, the questions, the discussion, and there's that sense that people are getting it. And so that energizes staff, and I really appreciate that. So very optimistic view looking forward there. I did want to also point out in my memo that there's quite a bit coming up besides water master plan and some of those other things. Budget is going to start taking over more of our time in our meetings. We'll have some work sessions starting at the next meeting where we'll have department level presentations for you all to give a high level overview of the budget. And then starting in October is when the full budget detail is made public, and we kick off the public hearings at that time through December. So always a good time of year digging into that and looking forward to the next year. So let's see. We also a lot going on besides short-term rental discussions, actually other things going on pertaining directly to housing. And one of the projects that was kicked off this summer by the board was a partnership with the Chaffey Foundation to start exploring development potential of the Carbonate Street properties. And we're looking forward to bringing that back publicly over the next couple of months. Joseph Teipel, our new planning director, welcome Joseph, is heavily involved with that. And I'm very excited to see how he's already bringing ideas to make that a pretty public discussion, the ability to have community input into that potential project to add more workforce housing in our community. So good stuff coming up there. And let's see, just a quick update, and I'll let Michelle finish this topic, but I do want to point out that our wildland program that the town did retain after we divested of BB Fire and turned that into a partnership with Chaffey Fire, we retain the wildland program as something that's operating out of town staff, and that's a revenue generating operation for us to help offset our partnership costs with Chaffey Fire. That's continued and done very, very well. As you all know, there's a lot going on in our country, and those resources get deployed not only within Colorado, but outside of Colorado. We are having a change in staffing there, and so just kind of calling that to your attention. Shauna Martinez was a big part of that program. She has moved on to another opportunity, but we have entered into a contractual agreement with Phil Graham, who actually created this program within the county. So we feel like we're in very good hands with him, and operating in a contract position helps us kind of optimize our resources. The other part of her role, I'll let Michelle Stoke, our treasurer, fill you in where that's at. And then finally, I'll conclude my report with just kind of acknowledging that we've entered back into a time in COVID, the pandemic, where numbers in our county and infection rates are fluctuating quite a bit. The infection rate has been higher during the month of August. It has thankfully stabilized in September so far, even though case counts continue to pop up. So we have gone back to asking the public to mask up in public facilities when they're entering in to conduct business, especially when they're going to be within 6 feet. And we've also required that staff start to do that as well when we're in close proximity, just to protect everybody involved, but still trying to allow as much in-person activities as we can safely. So you'll notice once again tonight, we have yet a different layout here. Again, trying to space people out and allow the meeting to happen in person, but spread out safely. So when you're moving about in the facilities, I ask that you wear a mask when you're getting close engagement within 6 feet of each other. So that's kind of the mode we're operating in September. The other entities in the county are following suit. And so hopefully this stabilizes and we won't have to, go farther than that, but we'll be paying attention to public health pretty closely as we proceed into the fall and winter time. With that, I'll conclude my report, and answer any questions.
Questions for Philip? Comments? I will reiterate, welcome, Joseph. And do we have two trucks in the wildland fire or just one?
We have one truck.
Okay.
One brush truck.
Okay. And I know you did a review of the revenue. And that's why it's still here. Just saying. Yeah, thank you. Next. Town Treasurer, Michelle. I think.
Oh, she might be at, let's make sure she's not in attending mode.
Maybe she's muted.
I do not see her.
Okay. I know her husband was getting home tonight from a trip, so she might be tied up with
Okay.
that. So
That's cool. If she shows up, we'll jump back.
jump back.
You betcha. Let's go ahead with Dean, Police Chief Dean Morgan.
Hey there, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm just across the street, so no mask for me. I'll go through my report with you guys real quickly, guys and gals. Thank you. We had a arrest control on September 1st and then again on September 8th. It talks about some of the details of that in my report there. One of the nice things about that is we got a little rain one of the days, which gave us some practice training in different types of environments, which we encounter on the streets. One of the things I mentioned in my report is the need for a training room. So as there's discussions about a new building and things like that for the police department, that's an aspect of that, is having a new training room. Some of these arrest control trainings, we go to the ground and do ground fighting and things like that. So we've used the school wrestling room in the past and high elevation wrestling in Nathrop, but that's no longer available to us. So that's one of the benefits we'd like to consider for a new building. Also, our officers have been super busy as the summer season's winding down. We still have quite a few special events coming up, and just kind of highlighting some of the burden that place or demands that places on our officers. So I typed a report last week, so it's past tense, but the last weekend we had the Autumn Foliage Run, the Trail Sister Run, and the Bronco Super Celebration. Those all went really well, and those really don't have too much of an impact for law enforcement. But this coming week, we do have some pretty big events coming. The community dinner on Monday, the 20th, which is pretty much an all-day and well into the evening event for the whole department. It's a really good event. So hopefully we'll see a lot of citizens out there. And we have all the homecoming events next weekend, a dance, a game, and a parade. And also next weekend, expecting quite a bit of traffic for the Meet Me at the Creek event. On the 24th, we had a booth at the Avery Parsons Elementary Back to School Night. And our school resource officer, Megan DiGirolamo, she coordinated that, did a really good job. There's a couple pictures attached. We appreciate the Chaffey County SWAT team coming out with their big truck. And we also have members on that tactical team. It's a joint team, so that was really cool for a lot of people. There's a typo there. I said September 26th. It's supposed to be August 26th was the first day of school. And this is Megan's 4th year as our school resource officer. And she was pretty excited. You can see the picture there. She has her own parking space this year, so that was cool. Also, the standard response protocol, which is a school safety protocol we train on. We've been doing trainings on that for the staffs at the school to get everyone ready for the upcoming school year. At our August 25th team meeting, we reviewed our vehicle pursuit policies and patrol vehicle operation policies, which is required by CIRSA. And over the last couple months, we've had officers attending a lot of really cool trainings, like the National Tactical Officers Association training on response to active shooter, Desert Snow, which is a drug interdiction training, mathematical shooting incident reconstruction. So some really cool trainings. But just as we consider scheduling and officers that might call in sick or be on vacation, to maintain staffing levels has been pretty interesting. And Sergeant Garcia does our scheduling, and he does a really great job with that. The last two things is we've got 2 officers that started the Pikes Peak Regional Law Enforcement Academy on August 24th. And we hope that they'll be graduated near the end of December. And also, this wasn't in my report, but we just scheduled this today, October 6th. We're going to have an event at Brown Dog Coffee called Coffee with a Cop. It's going to be from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. So anybody's welcome to stop by and have coffee with us. Sheriff Speasy should be there, and some state patrol representatives. And it's for citizens if they want to just come and chat with police or get to know their local officers and have a cup of coffee with us. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Trustees, questions? Comments? Go ahead, Libby.
What is Krav Maga?
It's an arrest control system developed by the Israeli Special Forces. So I'm not sure exactly what it means, but that's the system. Colorado Post recognizes several arrest control systems, and that's one of them. And that's the one we use at our department.
Thanks, Chief.
You bet.
I just wanted to mention, and I know it takes you a whole 5 minutes to go through your demands on the BVPD, hundreds of hours. Just saying, you guys do a lot unseen, sight unseen and not recognized, but we appreciate everything you do, Dean.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate everything you all do as well.
Anything else for Dean? Okay, we'll move on. And if
Thank you.
Michelle shows up, Michael, maybe you can pop us and let us know.
I will let you know. I'm keeping an eye out.
Thank you. Next is Earl Richmond.
Good evening, Mayor, trustees. My report is on page 51 of the packet. Along with the rest of the town, we had an extremely busy summer, but it was also really fun. Just working on strategies going into 2022 that center around sustainability. We're in grant season right now, looking at funding opportunities to support a lot of our capital projects for 2022. And those include opportunities with Colorado Parks and Wildlife, GOCO, Land and Water Conservation Fund, and the Southwest Conservation Corps. We put together our initial budget for 2022 and look forward to presenting this at a high level to the board at the next meeting on the 28th. We were able to have our first Heritage Days in Buena Vista, where we invited people of different ethnic backgrounds and adopted families to come and network, and had a great dinner down at the river park. That was really fun to see all these great families in town come together. You may see out on social media and on our website, we are still seeking a rec admin assistant, but we're getting great applicants now that the summer's kind of coming to an end and school's back in play. A lot of local applicants, so we're really encouraged about fulfilling that position relatively quick. Mcphellamy Park Shade Structure is a project we weren't able to get to this year due to the increase in construction and materials. But we've been meeting with some other entities in town that are excited to be a part of this project in 2022, which includes BVEC and the BV Library and High Country Fine Arts. So stay tuned for a collaborative project, hopefully coming together next year to get that structure completed. And of course, if you've been around across from the PD, the pickleball phase 1 has continued to go on. Some of the biggest boulders on earth live underneath that proposed pickleball facility, but we're working with the contractor. That's amazing. They're getting them all out there. We'll recycle most of them to help buffer out our parking lot area. They've had to crack several of them, but they're doing a great job. And then you also may have seen some great stuff going around. We worked with some high school kids that put together a really cool informational video about the Pocket Wave redo project we're looking to do next winter. So it's raising funds and awareness through a 4-minute video that a couple of our high school kids made for the rec department. We're excited to showcase that to the community. Under programming, Shane and Tucker stay extremely busy. It's fall, so fall sports are in full action. BV Rec has helped facilitate youth tackle football this year, so we help with registration and marketing and communications for the team members and parents. That's well underway. Soccer is also in full swing. We have a little league with Salida and South Park and Leadville. They had their first games last week, so you'll see them out every Saturday in BV, utilizing our softball fields and baseball fields and soccer fields, and then traveling every other weekend. So just a fun time for all those kiddos out there and parents that are helping. We really appreciate everyone's support. Volleyball has started up indoors. We have a men's league and a women's league. We have a new pickleball instructor that's moved to town. That's great. He's going to be offering several classes. Some are free, some have a small fee associated with them, and the fees that he collects will go to the pickleball facility improvements in 2022. We also went to back to school night. Tucker and Shane did, and had a great evening meeting a lot of new parents and a lot of new kids, which is kind of the common theme, which is great. Tons of awesome new people moving to the Valley. And we've had several other successful clinics at the end of the summer. So very happy that we made it through with a bunch of kids that had a good time and ready to be moving into the fall here. Under facilities, Ben also stays extremely busy with lots of phone calls and inquiries. I'm remote, but for the building that you're in, you may have seen the new signage we have up. So thanks to the admin team, they helped us draft up signage so when people come in, they wear masks as well, and we greet them with masks. We're able to separate and have a little distance. We can take our masks off and get to business as usual. We have all of our reservations now available online for people that are looking for parks and meeting rooms and pavilions to rent. We're also focusing on, you can't as an individual rent a facility unless it's 60 days or less out. That way we preserve our rooms and facilities for our number one priorities, which are the town and programming and the county and BV schools. So that's been working out really well. And then under special events, as Dean mentioned, there's a lot going on every weekend, but Ben puts together amazing reports and has really good department head meetings to bring us all up to speed about what's happening. And yeah, we've had some busy weekends with the Bronco Fest last week and an amazing trail run with Trail Sisters, thanks to Gina. And the fishing derby went off without a hitch. Couple things we're looking to for 2022, which we've brought up in conversation, but we'll bring back in our reports next month for suggestions for the board. As we're trying to keep special events off of our playing services, i.e. keeping special event organizers from having camping and big tents on our softball fields and soccer fields, just because those are designed for playing surfaces. We want those events to still occur, but to happen in other parks and other regions where the grass won't get worn out as quick. Let's see. Other things coming up. Yeah, next weekend's gonna be super busy with events. The homecoming parade along with 14er Fest on East Main Street. And then the renewal concert, which is not a BV event, but it's right up the street. So we will have several visitors coming through town on Friday and Sunday. So that'll be fun and exciting. And then Ben has a really good strategy with event organizers that don't meet our criteria for special events. We put them under peaceful assemblies. We get a good understanding of the who, what, when, where, why. So for situational awareness, so Ben can keep all the department heads aware of what's happening with events like Apple Fest and the Celebration of Life and Many Blessings Light Show coming up. So yeah, that concludes my report. It's kind of the tip of the iceberg, but we're all staying happy and staying healthy. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Earl. Does anybody have questions, comments for Earl? Just noting here, Earl, the Vista Park public informational meetings.
Yeah.
I'm going to say I've done more than a handful of surveys over the past 12 months. That's a very good survey. conclusive, makes a lot of sense. It's not guided. It's just a very good survey. So if anybody's out there, that's a well needed input.
Yeah, we appreciate that. Thank you for those comments. And then, yeah, there's a link on our report. So if trustees want to take a look at it and fill it out when they have time, that'd be awesome.
Thank you, Earl. No Michelle yet, Michael?
It looks like Michelle has joined.
All right, Michelle. You're
I'm
on.
here. It's been a heck of a night. Thank you, Mayor, trustees. Philip, you didn't do my report for me, did you?
I did it backwards. No, I did not. do it. There you go.
Okay, it's not much. There's the websites from my, the ClearGov and the budget, and the town expenditure summarizing the payroll and the wildland fire, the incident response payroll. That was a couple months added together. That's why it's so humongous. And then expenditures over 2,000 are all there. And if you have any questions for that, let me know. At the bottom of my report, I am going to update you regarding Shauna. Shauna left the town of Buena Vista to go take another position, and she's relocating, so she can't even moonlight for us. And so we have contracted with Phil Graham to run the incident response team and be as an independent contractor. He is the one that started this program, and so he trained Shauna, so I don't see any problems with him coming up to speed, just her showing him how we have refined, if that's what you want to call it, the processes. So then, since Shauna was supposed to be 75% incident response and 25% finance, we wanted to let you know that we'd like to hire a part-time person with the remaining money from Shauna. And it would be like, what did we decide? 25 hours a week, Philip?
Correct. That's right.
To help Jonna and I, because we still need some help with filing, and if she could train the new person how to do accounts payable, that would take a lot off of Jonna's plate, and maybe we could get our offices cleaned up. So I look forward to the part-time person to backfill Shauna's spot, and we wish Shauna the best. This concludes my report. If you have any questions, let me know.
Questions for Michelle? Just a clarifying question, Michelle, and I don't want to put you on the spot. We have the refund for Kenneth Layton for his permit fee. Could you just enlighten us just a little bit on that? And if you can't now, maybe later, that would be fine.
Go up a little bit, Philip. It's on the second page, I think.
I got it on 44.
Okay.
Yeah.
44.
Part of that is water tap fee, and there's a cut permit, and there's a number of different things that are comprised of that. We did withhold some of that, and I'm not sure of the exact story. Sean may be able to enlighten you on that, or Mark during.
Okay, do we over collect on that stuff, do we
collect
not?
all of that up front at the
Yes.
when they turn in a building permit. Soon after he turned in a building permit, they decided to cancel the project.
Oh,
And so
okay.
since no work had been done on the staff side, we approved refunding that.
And that's what that
There's no
was.
Tap into our water system, there was no
Sure.
cut or
Okay.
anything done.
Isn't it? It's not out of the ordinary, I'll put it that way, to get too much money and still get a refund, or is that not necessarily true when it comes to permits and that kind of stuff?
No, not typically. There's some of our planning fees where we do collect a deposit
Gotcha.
for
Okay.
review fees, things like that, but we've moved away from that more and gone to a flat fee structure more and more.
Okay,
But on this is all tied
this was
to
just a,
all the upfront fees with the building permit.
cool, thank you very much. And I'm sorry, Michelle, I didn't want to put you on the spot.
Put me on the spot. I love it.
Well, you know, that's for the next 8 meetings coming up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything for Michelle? Thank you very much. Okay, business items. Water master plan. Wright Water Engineering will provide the board with an introduction of the water master plan update. And I didn't see him. Philip, are you going to lead into that?
I'll let Joel give a quick intro, and then we do have Mike and Trish on as panelists, I believe, so they'll be able to jump in after Joel does an intro.
Thank you. Thanks, trustees. So you guys know every 5 or 7 years, it's a good idea to update the water master plan. And this year, we got from start of the project in the spring, late spring, and have really been diving into some of the information more so than in previous plans. And so it's taken until now to be able to be in a good position to present what we think is a solid draft water master plan. This year we used Wright Water Engineers. You guys know that they've been our water engineers in town for decades, and have just know all the ins and outs of our water, the water system and the water rights. So they've done a great job. Mike Glade came on board this spring and has been working with Trish to kind of help mine our data and what the town knows and what Wright Water already knows, and working with our town attorney, our water attorney, to pull this together, which is we'll introduce it here in a minute. Just in terms of process, what this is intended just really as an introduction for the trustees. It's not really intended to get too into the weeds on this stuff, because we have October 12th. We're having a session to really get into the weeds, and of course you guys are welcome to ask whatever questions you want. This is available for the public online and in town hall, and people can send me questions and send me information. All my information's online on the town website. The Water Advisory Board is meeting on this Thursday evening as well to provide some input. So anyway, with that, I'll turn it over to Mike and Trish. I think Mike's taking the lead and Trish is available for questions and things. Great slides together. So Mike, welcome to the town of Vista.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure. I always enjoy visiting Buena Vista as well. And as Joel mentioned, I'm Mike Glade. I'm a senior water resource engineer with Wright Water Engineers here in Denver. And I'm real happy to make an introduction to the Water Resources Master Plan. And you may ask yourself, why an introduction versus just getting into it? That's kind of twofold. One is for those that are really busy, it gives you an opportunity as a reminder, a gentle reminder, to take the opportunity to review it. This is a document that's very important for the town, and we really want you to spend the time to review it and offer insights and input. Two is to prepare you for the October meeting, such that we make sure that when we roll that meeting out, that we're emphasizing and reporting the things that are important to you as the trustees, as well as any questions that the community members may have. So that's why we do this quick introduction, to give you a little bit of background on it. So I don't think I can control the slides. The next slide, please. You know, I always like to start out with a thank you, because just as with all the town staff and everything you reported tonight, there's a lot of work that goes behind the short discussion around the activities in a community. And This report took a lot of work of many individuals, and specifically want to thank the town staff members that are listed here, Philip, Joel, Sean, and Mark, for their input, their patience, their insight, and just their commitments to balance us coming into their lives and asking for information as they do their day jobs. Of course, the Board of Trustees and Water Advisory Board members, thank you as well for having the foresight to request a report like this and to plan for the future and to look at where you're at currently. The citizens of the town, this is for the citizens, as you'll see. I'll reinforce that later in this introduction, as well as the team at Brightwater Engineers. There's so many team members that work in putting things like this together. Some of the detail that engineers love to get into. We have a lot of people that do this on a day-by-day basis, and they have a commitment and a real passion around it. Next slide, please. So really the basics, what, why, how, some of the highlights, and then a bit of the review timeline. The what, this is an updated water resource and master plan. As Joel mentioned, it's recommended every 5 to 7 years, in particular in communities where you're seeing growth. We're seeing, changes within climate or impacts that could possibly impact the town water resources system. That's important. Why? The water demands and population growth have changed since 06 and 14, since those master plans. We have updates to that. How? We've reviewed the existing water resources supply and water rights. We looked at demands in a couple different growth scenarios. It's always hard to predict exactly how and when and where a town may grow, but we provide the scenarios to give you hopefully insights to where you're going to be, or even in a couple of years. This should be a living document that you can refer to and hopefully do some planning around that as you may change your growth. A little bit about the high level highlights. Again, real high level. I'm going to get into detail as you want to hear on the next meeting, but infrastructure has some areas of note. The town's already working on that and focused on it, but we have the same conclusion that there are some infrastructure needs, as well as looking at maximum single family equivalents that the town can support with your existing water rights system. And then we'll give you and kind of finish with just a timeline of and the dates in which we plan to roll out the next meeting. Next slide, please. So a little bit more on the what. Focused on water rights and infrastructure, looked at treated water capacity, availability, and flexibility. So not just availability, but allowing the town to have flexibility depending whether it's a maintenance issue, whether it's water rights that are in different areas of town that may need to be used to meet your needs and demands. Looked at water supply, demand, and growth projections. Again, that's really why we're here. If the town was stagnant and not growing, we probably wouldn't need to be talking about a water master plan as much as just your typical maintenance. Next slide, please. We looked at 3 growth scenarios. This is something that I'm sure everyone that's watching this presentation is very familiar with. Historic growth rates have been about 1.3% or 25 to 30 SFE per year, single family equivalents. I apologize if you're not familiar with that. And so that's one thing we looked at. Is it going to be historic? Probably not, but we provided a growth rate of about 50 SFE per year. That's been demonstrated within the last 10 years. So that's certainly possible. You've seen that kind of growth rate. And then we went with a growth rate of 70 SFE per year that has been demonstrated in the last several years, the last few years. And that is, if that's sustained, of course, as you grow, your demands on your water supply will increase as well. So we looked at those 3 scenarios that we think are very reasonable and realistic for the town of Buena Vista, and that's how we constructed our report. Next slide, please. We provided some recommendations on how to plan and meet future water demands, something that you can act on. It's very important to Brightwater and, of course, those within town staff to have some action items. What can you look at? Where do you need to go? What do you budget for? What are the next steps and milestones? So that's something that we tried to provide with the report, and we'll continue to work with staff on that. Next slide. As I said, this is a living document. It's real important, I think, especially when it comes to water rights and water master planning, to continue to refer, build on, even if there's technical memos in the future as conditions change, to reinforce, supplement, and review a document like this. Because this should be used for town planning strategies. And it does outline a focus on sustainability or capacity limits. And, we even recommend that conservation, something that I know staff are working on and emphasizing within the community. But hopefully the report will indicate to everyone that's watching this and reviews the report, how important conservation can actually be, that it can actually provide a growth scenario of another and support a population of another 1,000 people or so. Those are why some of the points, as I said, we bring up to act on may be important as the town moves forward. Next slide, please. And I apologize that if you have questions, I can tend to go through, I know my time is short tonight, so if you have questions, please speak up. I apologize. A little bit about the why, real simple. I'm sure you say it all the time when you report out and when Sean reports out, but really want to continue to provide the citizens with a reliable, high quality and affordable water supply that meets current and future demands. I mean, that goes without saying, but it's still worth saying because I think it's important. I've been a plant manager of water and wastewater treatment plants, and this is something that I not only emphasize to my team, but the communities in which I serve. So, and again, it's advisable to update every 5 to 10 years. So you're at that point. We didn't rush this. It's not like we're doing this on top of a past report. It really was a good time to update your master plan. A little bit more about the why. Again, I said it a few times tonight, but highlight the areas of current and future challenges. Outline the impacts of variable growth rates on water resources and infrastructure. We don't really know what the future holds, whether you go quicker, slower, or what have you. So we tried to provide kind of a bookends to that. And then captures direct water right challenges for a dry year or extreme or extended events. I mean, it really boils down to, as I think everyone knows, what are the impacts during a dry year scenario? How will the community respond to dry years, and how will the town be able to provide a water supply and a reliable water supply during those dry years? We've experienced those. They like to say we're in an extended drought right now in Colorado, or whether that's the new norm, I don't know, but we want to give the town and the community the basis to basically plan around all the scenarios when it comes to dry year. Next slide, please. So how did we do this? I'm sure most of this is common sense, but I want to reinforce it. We interviewed the town staff, spent a lot of time working with the town on getting information from Sean and Joel and Philip and Mark, and just being able to compile that. We've reviewed those 6 and 14 historic water plans. There's a lot of good information there. I mean, you invested in those plans, so there's good reason for us to use those as we move forward. We took an unbiased approach to gathering accurate information while using reasonable assumptions to analyze data. Our job as engineers are to make sure that we try and be as unbiased as possible, regardless of what the news may be saying or even what the trends may look like. We tried to manage those and put that in the report. We looked at historic hydrological data on precipitation, temperature, and stream flow. I think I may say it later, but we're seeing a recent trend. When I say recent, that can mean in historical numbers, but in lower precipitation over the annual precipitation and elevated temperatures. That can have impacts. That's something that needs to be considered. We looked at historic population growth and future projections. Again, we spent a lot of time with town staff considering that and talking about what that might be. We summarized water demands and water use patterns as provided in the report as well. We hope that there's improvements in how people use water and respect water, but we also reported what are the historic demands, and so again we plan around that. We outline current average and dry year yields from the water rights portfolio. As I mentioned, dry years is really the line in the sand when it comes to water supply. And then we calculated the maximum dry year SFEs that can be supported based on variable growth projections. So we actually provide the year in which we think water stress could be realized by the town, given, like I mentioned, the 770 SFE per year growth rate, which has potential to happen, and what that can look like, and when would the town experience severe water stress in a dry year. And that's within the 10-year horizon. I don't want to give a lot of punchlines because I want to make sure that I don't bias those that may have questions when we get into the detailed review, but that's a potential. Next slide, please. So the high level highlights, I've given some of those already, but infrastructure has current existing needs. Despite us reinforcing that in our report, the town is very aware of that and working with others and other groups and consultants around that. So it's safe to say, despite that we know that's the case, it's being looked at and worked on. So I think the community and the town or the town themselves and the town staff are working on that very hard. Population growth could lead to future water stress in dry years. I think that goes without saying, but we kind of put numbers around that. Rather than just wave our arms and say a dry year is going to be a problem, we try and provide you with a timeline around when it could be a problem and what you can do about that. Conservation and water right acquisitions are opportunities to support growth. Conservation is something that the community can do that doesn't cost a lot of money. You know, you can look into any programs you want, incentive programs, that's up to you. But truthfully, if the citizens of the town take action and conserve, every drop that they conserve can be applied and towards future growth. Water rights acquisitions are something that we specialize in and support in the past. That's important as well, but that takes time. It takes time to find the right water because not all water is created equal. And it also takes time to be able to apply that water to use for the town to use. So that's something that we bring up and we want to make sure that's emphasized if the town anticipates growth and encourages and supports that growth. So the timeline for kind of, we spent a lot of time developing the master plan and working with the town over the last several months. But we released the draft report officially on August 26th. Tonight, we're doing a very quick and short introductory review, again, to emphasize for people to please take the time to look at it and come back with some good questions prior to the October 12th meeting, where we're going to get into detail. And so I can address those and Trish and I can address those appropriately and make sure that we give some comfort on how we move forward. And then this is a guess, but we'd probably issue the final report in October or November, given some of the input that we receive, even from the detailed meeting. Next slide, please. So I just want to thank you for your time. I know this is really, truly a quick introduction, but as I mentioned up front, I just hope that you're able to take the time to review the report, come up with some questions that may concern you personally or the community, and we can address those appropriately. Also, rather than just throw out there, hey, let us know what the concerns are. Joel Benson has been kind enough to say he'll round up those questions and concerns and get those to the Right Water team, so we can get those in order appropriately and address those in our next presentation or even prior to if need be. So I've put Joel's contact information, even though I think most people are able to contact him. But if you have any quick questions, I'm more than happy to take those now. But again, I want to avoid getting into too much detail unless absolutely necessary, just so we get into the appropriate detail, which I didn't do tonight in the next presentation on the 12th of October. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Hey, Mike, thank you so much. Let me just say one quick thing before I open up, or you open up with questions, whatever. So this is I know that this is the most detailed and comprehensive water master plan that we've had since at least that 2006 one. I don't know what happened before that, but with data that like makes sense and that's accurate all the way through and has takeaways like not just get storage, but here's some idea and some strategy behind that, and so it gets into that now what, and it also introduces things like a conservation plan, coordination and demand management and some other things that we need to take care of that we have to do. And it can be used as a jump off point for some policy discussions that you guys can expect to have within the next few months for sure. And however fun those policy discussions will be, we will see. So anyway, I really commend Tricia and Mike for pulling this together and getting all the detail. And I hope you guys are able to really spend time and absorb what that information is. I mean, it has things like, what is well number one? When can we use it? Which has never been out there. I mean, you've had to like dig to find any kind of glimmer of what that piece of information is. But now it's here. So just an example. So thanks so much, Mike. And I'll turn back over to you, Duff. Thanks for letting me interject that.
No problem. And thank you very much. And thank you, Mike. I will reiterate what Joel said. We've had a couple plans come at us, which I think I used the term loosely, plans. They were interesting, but they really didn't lay out what you're laying out here. Cindy said something at the beginning of the meeting, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but it will put you to sleep.
Yeah.
Dissect it, break it down, read a little at a time, go through it and really absorb it. We've got, as Joel said, a couple months. Any questions that come up, or if it just doesn't make sense, shoot him an email. That way he can kind of gather some things together. And he may even be able to respond at that point in time, but no question is a bad question. And it may be the same question everybody else has. And so just shoot those things out there. Well, as you all saw in our little walk around, and we basically saw just a minor portion of the town's water, of how complex and how much is out there. And then you put it into this and you go, wow, okay. The thing that I guess I recall more than anything is 5-6 years ago, we were looking at two graphs that intersect out here. Now all of a sudden they're, with the SFEs we're projecting right now, they're going to hit quick. So we have to have a good plan in progress. So anything else, trustees, questions, comments? Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
I guess we're going to see you in a month for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Have a great night.
Alrighty.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, staff. Next item is the Board of Trustees handbook. Board will consider adoption of the new Board of Trustees handbook. That's is that a Paula thing?
You can make it a me thing. Paula, do you want to take it, or would you like?
Well, I'm gonna let you, but I do have one note that we need to ensure that the board discusses.
Okay, yes, so you got a good reminder for me. So not nearly as exciting as water, but still important. We've updated the policies, AKA handbook for the Board of Trustees, really trying to consolidate into a document that our board can use and future board members can use as we transition to new people, right? We want institutional knowledge and continue to build on the culture that we have here. This is our attempt to put that into a usable document. So we've discussed it a number of times. I think the main thing for tonight is to take any final edits. And I know of one that we've left kind of open. We didn't receive specific direction at the last meeting. So hopefully you all considered it and would be ready to kind of in a motion direct us how you want this to read in a final version. But under the board attendance, we had come up with two scenarios there that was really kind of leaving it undefined in terms of numbers and kind of allowing the board to deal with situations as they may arise about attendance and what's appropriate. And if a particular trustee is absent, then for a number of meetings, then the board could deal with that situation when it comes, or put something that's a little more defined in terms of numbers. But as we discussed, that does present what is the appropriate number, and then it's a tracking situation for the staff. Not a big deal, but it's not how we've done it in the past. And really, this hasn't been an issue in recent years, but it was something that was brought up as, hey, could we consider different ways to handle that attendance situation? So I'll stop there. And if there's any questions or motions or anything you want to direct staff on this, but I think we're ready to turn this into a final document.
Trustees? Comments on attendance? It hasn't been an issue with the boards I've been involved in. I know prior to that, they did remove somebody because they just plain didn't attend. And they had to adopt that or work on that. That was before I don't know if Joel might have been involved in that. Maybe he wasn't. I think it was before you even, that a trustee just didn't show up for meetings, extended periods, and they finally.
No, there was one, I mean, there was a recall potential for one trustee.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something yeah. It's been a long time ago.
Yeah.
So it hasn't been something that's haunted us here, but clarification is always good when we're starting to talk any kind of policy agreement or document. Any thoughts? And that's on page 115, board commitment code of conduct, item C.
Correct.
Yep. And it gives us that or statement there.
I can see it being something that is necessary, but can we put in there like an extenuating circumstance?
Sure.
Just so we're not on a witch hunt or something like that. You know, say somebody their spouse gets real sick or something like that. There ought to be a little discretion there.
But you know, and
Held up, unexcused absences is what some of my boards use. And then you can give an excuse if it's a justified reason. Have a little more leeway. And then as a note, you know, it's pretty kind of difficult as to what your enforcement mechanism is if there isn't attendance. Because the statute really only allows for recall for like specific serious misconduct. It's not, I mean, not attending a meeting may not rise to that level. So so it's kind of one of those things where it's maybe enforceability may be a little difficult anyways.
okay.
We could deal with it at the time. It's that this sets an expectation that people should be complying with. And then ultimately it's kind of a public issue if the board member is not showing up representing their citizens. But if you use unexcused absences, then you have a situation like Norm's describing where you could give some more leeway to somebody. Just a thought.
Okay. Does that make sense to?
Yes.
So just a wording change?
What that means though is probably most meetings you have to have a discussion or a quick so-and-so's absent tonight for this reason, and the board will say, I move to excuse it or not or whatever. It's kind of tricky either way because then you have to make a decision whether it's excused or it's not excused. They're
right.
Meeting if somebody's not here.
And you could, I guess, basically from the or statement on deduct, just drop that, right? And then you could say emergency situation or excused absence. Does that make sense? Something like that. Something simple. And then we address it. And and I was going to say in these times that we're in right now, who knows?
No, I was just thinking, I've had a staff member off for a couple of weeks due to COVID, running very shorthanded, something like that.
Yeah. Well, and then just take that one step further, and then it goes from that family member to another one. You know what I mean? That's 2 more weeks. So that's in our circumstance, that's a meeting, that's a month, that's two meetings. So, there's got to be a little bit of balance and leeway.
Especially in this day and age.
Got to be a little compassion. Does that make sense, Philip?
It does. I think we can capture that in writing there.
Do we want to look at approving as amended, or are we going to approve this? I see it is in draft form still. Any other comments? Libby?
I have a few comments. And one of them is that I'm not sure we should go with the first part of that one versus the second part after the or. I don't know if there's any harm in describing what we mean by regularly attending board meetings. Somebody might think regularly attending is once a quarter, it's regular.
Okay.
Whereas the way it's stated after the or, it's very specific. And I think I like that, as long as we add the provision of unexcused absences.
So drop the or and just let it flow. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
To where you would say that whole statement? Ready to limit remote attendance as much as possible for non-emergency situation, regularly attend board meetings in person, present at least 75%. And you could drop the last statement of limit remote because you've already stated it once.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, Philip?
So that gives an expectation, and then maybe just check on the wording to make sure that
Yeah.
it talks about acceptable or excused absences in emergency situations, that kind of thing.
And I have a couple of other,
Were you thinking about us, the board passing this tonight?
Yes.
Hoping so. So
If-
we
if
want
it's
to,
close enough.
we want to kind of iron that down, and I think we're close on that one. Okay, go ahead. You had another one?
on page 111, item D, under the meeting schedule and procedure. Item D is CIRSA training for elected officials, ethics, liability, and best practices. What follows that doesn't seem to relate fully to what the title is. I was wondering what is intended there. Is it something like trustees are expected to be familiar with these guidelines, or that we're expected to complete the courses ourselves, or is it truly just a where the mayor is following the guidelines?
Thinking, just 1 second, reading through it. I know the intent was to acknowledge that there are resources that are out there, including CIRSA, for the training for elected officials that cover the basis of the ethics and liability and best practices. And that the facilitation of the meetings are in line with what that training shows or what that training provides. So are you saying that whole section feels out of place?
No, it's not that it's out of place. I just don't think it relates necessarily to what the title of it is. That the CIRSA training for elected officials, that seems like a good idea. And I'm not sure that the statement that follows it covers that whole idea.
Okay.
So I was thinking that we might add something like trustees are expected to be familiar with these guidelines. And maybe attend trainings if necessary, or, something that fills it out a little more.
Do we do that training when we have a new board? When we've had new people come on? Her name is escaping me, that
Christie.
Christie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
Is
based
that
on
along
the
those
same,
lines?
it is, we change it up, kind of depending on availability and what the emphasis needs to be on. DOLA is a little more on process versus a little more on legal protecting liability side, but it's all based on the same key points.
And I do recall in the packet that we got as new trustees, and even myself, Mayor, you got a little booklet of, and it was from CIRSA, wasn't that, Paula? The little booklet on ethics and that you could go through, not saying that that doesn't fall into this. We aren't making it mandatory.
Mhm.
And yet, and we can touch on this at a later time, but I think that's what Trustee Volpe is kind of alluding to. And we've had very brief discussions on that. A watch party. So we all gather as trustees and come and do a CIRSA presentation right here. That's something I think we could entertain. And like I say, not right here and now do we need to discuss that, but it kind of falls in with what you're saying. Why not? And all by itself. It doesn't kind of really go anywhere. How do you propose changing that, Philip?
I think we can, as Trustee Fay alluded to, I think we can put language around the expectation for all of the trustees to complete that training. And maybe we say, whether it's DOLA or CIRSA or even CML. It doesn't really have to be that specific, but so it's the expectation that the trustees complete that training and follow the guidelines, that come out of that.
Okay.
Thank you. Just one more, which is actually two more.
No,
On page, on page 114, under item B, the board job description. I think that linkage should be item A and assurance item B and adoptions item C. They just didn't get started up again.
oh, I see what you're saying.
Lettering of those.
Yeah, it
items.
goes B, board description, and then it goes C for sub item C.
I think that should be A, B, and C. And then on page 116, under committees and advisory boards, item B, I think it should say the board may appoint an individual trustee to serve as the official liaison of the board to community groups not officially designated by the board. I think it should say may rather than shall, because shall implies we're going to appoint people all over the place, every group.
Can you remind me what page that?
That is
One-
page 7 of
116.
9, board 116 of the packet.
Okay.
And then that's item,
Yeah, we're about to talk about that tonight, right? And it is
Yes.
worded as may versus shall. So I
Okay.
think that's a good clarification. I think it's at the board's decision whether they appoint liaisons to all of those or not. So.
and, and we have to because Gina will be on all of them if we don't, right?
Sure he is, right?
Just saying, you're new, you're gonna get hit hard. but just saying.
Right in.
So now I've reestablished my picky position. There we go.
Anything else?
That's it.
That's it. Any other questions, comments? So we have a draft in front of us. Staff is looking for approval, if so, or approval as amended for the policies of the Town of Buena Vista Board of Trustees, or a denial completely. I would entertain a motion.
Would it be weird to ask for or to motion to approve as amended, but included in consent agenda so we can see next time or whenever it comes back? So we don't have to have a discussion of
Right, right.
tearing it all down again, but we did make some rather significant changes.
Obviously,
So
motion
is it a possible, does that motion make sense if I make it that way?
makes sense.
Okay,
It does. Then we would see in a final draft in the consent agenda.
I would move to approve as amended. With the understanding that it comes to us in a consent agenda at some point.
Can I have a second? Second, we have a second. Further discussion? Did you have a question, Joel?
Well, I don't know if it seems like it would be more, I just moved to put it on the consent agenda with the amendments as discussed, and then the actual approval would happen during the consent. agenda.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Okay, so we moved just, basically, we have a motion to put it on consent agenda as amended, not to approve it tonight. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then it will be.
That was my
consent agenda.
Better
So,
worded version of my intent.
and so now we have a amended second.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much. Further discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Fay,
Yes.
trustee LaCretzi,
Yes.
trustee Nyberg,
Yes.
trustee Swisher,
Yes.
and trustee Bobby.
Yes.
Thank you, staff, for the time putting into this. We needed an update. Thank you all very much. Next item is item C, board assignments for advisory boards and Chaffey Housing Authority. Board will consider appointing a new member to Chaffey Housing Authority and review advisory board assignments. That one's got to be, gosh, I'll shoot in the dark.
All right, so yes, let's exercise what we just talked about a little bit, right? So we have a vacancy on the Chaffey Housing Authority Board. And that board consists of two appointments from the town of Buena Vista. As a reminder, it's a nine-member board made up of assignments from other entities in the county. So we have a vacancy there right now. Joseph Teichel is currently fulfilling the 2-year term, and I'm filling in. I'm assigned as the alternate member appointed by the board. So right now we still have 2 voting members on the board, but I would greatly appreciate the appointment of somebody into the 1-year term set to expire January 31st, 2022. So a couple of options, basic options for the board to consider. The original framework was not written as you must, but it was where we started, and that was the board appointed a trustee to one of those spots, and then somebody from within the community that showed interest and complemented the skill sets of others that are on the Housing Authority Board. And so that's option number 1. And then option number 2 is you could consider appointing a non-trustee or non-staff member into that role. And Becky has received 3 applications. They have a vacancy, I think, in one of the at-large seats. So she has done an outreach for people that are interested throughout the county and serving on that board. And there are 3 people that have submitted applications from within the town of BV. So you could consider having the Housing Authority Board review those and make a recommendation back to you who they feel best fits the combination of skills that they try to achieve there. So 2 basic options. I tried to give you a little bit of pro and con. I'm sure that's not completely extensive of all the considerations there, but certainly one of the advantages of trustee is that it does continue to have a direct connection between the elected officials and the housing authority. I think that was something we were all sensitive to when creating the housing authority, was that the residents of the county had confidence that there was accountability back to their elected officials. I don't think that that's a major concern at this point, so not sure how much importance or weight that carries with you. On the BV resident side, unless, like, assuming maybe our current trustees don't have the time or maybe the passion to serve in this capacity, it does extend that to some more options to look at people, residents, non-trustees. So really, I'm looking for a motion from the board tonight. If you'd like to appoint a trustee, discuss. If you're ready to make that appointment, that's great. You can do that tonight. If you would like to consider receiving a recommendation back from the Housing Authority on the 3 applications they have, Becky could bring that back at a future meeting, and then you could consider it at that time. I'll pause there.
Okay. Board, I will throw this out there. If there's anybody who would like to step up, that would be appropriate. I would save the predicament of appointing somebody who does not necessarily want to or doesn't have the time. And I think that's more critical than anything. A lot of people don't have time. Otherwise, we can option 2.
I like option 2.
Norm, you're stepping up. Just saying, never mind.
No, I think it'd be cool for a town resident,
Citizen involvement.
to be involved.
I'm not going to discount that at all. There again, they wouldn't be asking if they weren't interested, number 1. And it's always nice to have somebody feet on the ground outside the door. Maybe they hear different stories, or they'll convey it different than what we hear or see. Dave, you had something you were going to say?
Oh, the time commitment, as I recall, it was once a month and varied between BV and Salida or something like that.
It's a monthly meeting that does move around in the county. Sometimes it's up here, a lot of times down in Salida.
Okay.
So yeah, a few hours a month, I'd say 2-3 hours a month.
And I suppose they probably were doing Zoom. assuming?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, Becky's been great about setting that up so that save some trips, things like that. Does help to be in person.
We know that.
It's an active working board.
Yep.
And I think that's the other consideration is it's not just people, you know, voting on things. She's really trying to get people engaged and out there and doing a lot of tasks. There's a lot of subcommittees and things going on.
So unless, you know, I hear somebody say, hey, I'm all in favor. I agree with the trustees. You agree with what Norm is saying?
Yeah, so Becky, just real quick, I just want to acknowledge what Becky put in there. Committees, board members are expected to participate in subcommittees as well. So kind of going along the same thing, so.
Yep. So time stretches even a little further.
If it's vacant after April, maybe I'll consider it, but
What's going on?
not currently. I won't be in this room.
Well, if they,
I have a random question. If I'm allowed to ask. Just so the spot right now is only open until the rest of this year and they revote. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
So there's that point. So if the person wants to
Super.
serve again, so it's a good trial, right? Somebody can test it out, see how they do with it.
She's good at drawing.
Well, yeah, no, I was just clarifying.
See if Gina sticks it out, we'll know.
Test driving
What's
us right
the
now.
process that goes into that though? I mean, it seems,
Into after the term.
yeah,
Uh,
just for,
Becky, do you want to speak to that? I think you're on.
Hi, yes, I'm happy to speak to that. After that, we go through a board nomination process again. And I believe we would be coming back to you again with the same question, if you would like to appoint a trustee back into that vacant seat, or if you would consider a recommendation from the Housing Authority Board based on the applications and the interviews that we have from residents.
Okay. So direction staff, direction to staff, direction to Becky. Norm's thoughts?
Norm's thoughts.
Norm's thoughts?
Norm's thoughts. I'm on 2 boards
I
already.
think that the housing authority has a pretty detailed matrix of skills that they're looking for. And so I think it'd be good to have Becky be able to look at those applicants and see if they meet the skills desired. Come back to us if we need to do a trustee, if they don't, you know, if the applicants don't look good.
Okay. Direction given. I'm glad I'm safe because I don't have the qualifications.
We'll work with Becky and bring that
Work with
back.
Becky. That'll be perfect.
Excellent.
Thank you, Becky. Next we have moving down the line, Philip. Because that's all in the same category. Am I
Oh, it
correct?
is. Yeah, sorry.
That's all right.
I'll take this quickly. So we also just want to point out, so we've got direction now on the Housing Authority. I just wanted to bring this up now that Gina has joined our board here, that we do have trustee liaison positions and assignments. And so you'll see that kind of where people are serving. We do have a vacancy on the Airport Advisory Board, and they have expressed to me a few times that they would love to have a trustee assigned to that if possible. So I promised I'd bring it up, but good opportunity just to refresh everybody where folks are serving. And then there's beyond advisory boards, we do have some other connections out through the county and even to the state. So our partners like the EDC and Chamber of Commerce, we'd like to stay connected there. So I think everything's in pretty good order with the exception of just the Airport Advisory Board, if anybody's interested in that, or if anybody wants to swizzle these assignments, the board could consider that too.
Could I, Gina came from the Trails Advisory Board before she got on this board. And obviously can no longer be a voting member, but if you still have interest, I haven't been going to the meetings, so I would, if you want to continue that one.
yeah, I'd be happy to. I have an idea what's going on there already and whatnot, and passionate for them to do their thing. So I'd be happy to take that on.
I would relinquish my spot.
Okay. I thought for sure you were gonna say you would take the airport.
I had conflicts with work. No can do.
What's that?
Oh, at their meetings, I'm at work during their meetings.
You did, you know, I know it's killer, those Monday, them morning meeting. It's not early morning, it's morning meeting. Yeah, that's tough. It's really tough. So you'll recognize that change. Okay, thank you, Gina.
And then could I don't know, if I was gonna say this for trustee staff interaction, but it came up during the previous conversation, and here it is in front of us, the CML Legislative Council. I think that there's value in some of the CML trainings, and I know that the last invitation was in person only, and we don't have the budget, or, you know, I don't know who can take off work to attend these things. I'm wondering if, and I'd be happy to take the spot if reaching out to CML and inquiring about Zoom options or remote options, or like Duff and I had kicked around the idea of a viewing party. If they do have like a Zoom option for their meetings, we could meet here and take part in what goes on. But I think there's value in additional training outside of just what we're currently doing.
And I know Philip perked up a little bit because there is budget.
There's budget. I just want to make sure that's known. You do have budget for travel training, things like that. So the board has.
For the board.
Budget.
We have our own board, or specifically to that. I don't know how much it is. I know that we hardly ever damn it when it comes to how much travel we actually do.
It would cover going to the conference, it'd cover going to training at the CML location, things like that. You know, obviously it's been COVID for a while now, so
Right.
that hasn't been a thing. It's all been remote, but you do have budget, so it is an option.
Maybe, I don't know, maybe I don't know where to go with that, other than I think that it's worth exploring.
Go ahead, Joe.
Just to add with CML, so there's, this is the annual legislative session in February, second week of February. It's super interesting. It's like a presentation usually by the governor or the mayor of Denver or something, and then some legislators run through different policy things that are coming forward. It's a one-day deal with like breakfast and lunch or whatever, and everyone wears neckties or not. And like,
I was gonna ask, you answered. I was like, okay.
but
I didn't
that's like
either, so
it's a one-day deal and super interesting and great to go to. In addition, there's the policy committee, CML policy committee, which the town had been doing pretty regularly, and that meets a few times a year. And it's just to review the policy stuff and inform, and you vote and stuff. It's interesting. But then that's just a thing to do to weigh in on the bills coming. But then there's these trainings with CML, and they do some, like there's like how to be a mayor training and how to be a trustee training and all sorts of things. And that's where this budget really can kick in addition to the legislative session. But you can go and you sit in a room and you learn a whole bunch of cool stuff. And they have that annual workshop, or like a 3-day conference as well.
Right, the big one that
So
there
there's
is.
all kinds of things to explore with that. So it just takes some time looking on their website, you can find all kinds of great things.
Is that, and I know that's what you're touching on, is that something we need to look into about the possibility of doing it in-house? Whether we can access that and project it on our own screen, or is that even an option? I mean, those are the questions we have. Because obviously, Cindy works, Norm works, I work, Dave works, Libby works.
The only one is.
yeah, I mean, I think we've done some of that, right? We had Kevin, the executive at CML come and.
He did, yes. No, I'm not saying we're not doing it.
Okay,
Can we-
I just want to see if we're doing something.
Well, no, it's kind of like, and I think what Dave has alluded to, can we do more? Does that make sense? Is there more available? And I think Paul and I have even talked about it before. There's a lot of things on their site. And if we can access it and just what we're saying, have dinner tonight, watch something up here, talk about it, discuss it, enlighten ourselves and move on. You know, that's the simplest way I can see small town boards accommodating that kind of thing, because we all work.
The last one that they sent out was doing due process, right? Practical tips for municipal leaders. And, you know, a one-day conference on a Wednesday in Delta Or
See, that kills it.
Pueblo, right. It restricts who's gonna be able to go. And I know, we're asking, I don't know what we're asking other than I would like to be able to take advantage of that without having to jeopardize my position, or anybody who's got a job.
Is there, and I guess what we're asking, is there an alternative? I think that's really what we're asking. Is there an alternative? Because yeah, I'd love to go to a lot of, they do that with automotive, same thing, have it middle of the week, 6 o'clock at night in Denver. Yeah, I can't do that. I got to be back to work next morning at 6 o'clock. That means I'm shutting down early. Same thing here, Delta,
Could we offer to host an event here? I don't know.
And we have, well, of course, COVID.
Yeah.
We haven't done anything in a while, but we have. And so it's not, no, we can definitely do that. And we are in the middle of, what did we do? Oh, we had the code enforcement people here. Everybody came here. So, it's an option.
Yeah, we can explore that more with Cml, see what
And
options they have.
Dave's really interested in it, so he'll research it more.
If you guys would permit me,
We're all for it.
Okay.
I think everybody's,
Put it on you guys. If you don't mind me reaching out to CML and asking.
and we do have budget. Michelle's on there. I know we've got.
Over the computer.
I would like to take some classes eventually, so. That's where.
Yeah, those conferences are really good.
It makes sense.
Okay.
So we're back to our vacancy. No, we're covered. Just touched on it.
Airport's still vacant, but hard time of the day.
And we'll see, it's really tough.
Okay.
And I will say, and I was on the water, they're always interesting. There's so much that they talk about. It's just like, wow, pretty cool. Next item, is that involved in this too? No, DOLA. Okay, this is the next item. Any other questions on the advisory boards? Thank you, Dave. Nope, we'll move on to item D. DOLA Housing Affordability Grant Opportunity. Staff will update board on planning grant opportunities, seek direction on proceeding with an application.
I'll turn this over to Joseph.
Oh, the new guy.
Well, good evening. I'm really excited to be here. Start there. So just a really brief overview of a couple of things coming up. In Philip's staff report, he mentioned the work being done on Carbon Street. As we look at that coming before you all later in October, potentially, we're also thinking about DOLA has released 2 new grant programs out of the House Bill 1271 that was passed this last legislative session. These 2 grant programs are designed to help municipalities make investments in and quote unquote lasting changes to their code that will help build more of an ecosystem for affordability, housing affordability in their municipalities or in their jurisdictions. The first is called IHOP, not the restaurant, but a planning grant where the idea is that within the legislative bill, they put forward a menu of what they call qualifying strategies. It's a list of, I want to say, about 15 different options, policy recommendations that they say municipalities or jurisdictions should consider that could help increase the amount of affordable housing or the affordability of housing in their jurisdictions. So the planning grant is designed to help fund studies, consultants, code audits, other actions, community engagement by municipalities or jurisdictions to say, can we implement or enhance our existing qualifying strategies to increase affordability of housing? So we would like to pursue a planning grant under this program. And one of the reasons that we wanted to elevate this to you is that it does ask for a 25% local match. We anticipate our request being in the realm of $50,000, which would make a potential match in the realm of $12,500. We have not finalized this application yet. We're sort of looking for that head nod from you all that this is worthy of pursuit. The scope of work we'll be pursuing is essentially looking at how is our code currently structured and what recommendations would a consultant help us think about to make specific changes to help encourage the development of or the retention of affordable housing. So that's the planning grant. And then not to spend too much time on the other grant program because it's a little bit further off, but that's called an incentives grant. And it's essentially an implementation grant, not necessarily implementing what you plan, but it's saying if you have an investment that you could make, and they leave this very broad, including things like land acquisition, water infrastructure, public improvements, or helping to build a building. If there's an investment or a project you would like to have happen that would make a significant impact in your community's affordable housing stock, then you can ask for implementation dollars up to, I think, $5 million or $3 million for the incentives program. That one is a little bit longer of a timeframe. We'd be looking at submitting LOI, letter of interest, potentially focused on the Carbon Street parcels. This is a potential project. We might want dollars to help implement whatever you all recommend. But that would be a letter of interest that would go in November. We most likely would not get asked to apply for that until mid-2022. There's a small chance we'd be asked to apply in December or January, right away. But it would most likely be 2022 asked. That also has a local match component. I think it's 20% instead of 25%. DOLA is currently trying to work with the US Treasury to refine guidance or get explicit guidance on whether or not ARPA funding can be used for that local match. So that's a component that's being discussed but not finalized.
No, I think you laid it out great. So I guess how Joseph and Mark and I and the team see this as the boards have brought up in the past, hey, what are some other tools and parts of our code that can help shape the type of housing that we're trying to get more of? And I think this is a great opportunity through DOLA to get exactly that back to us as those recommendations, looking at our community, our growth patterns, our areas of desired growth, and our code to get something that we could actually move forward with. We are in collaboration. We're talking with Becky and the rest of the entities across the county about, are we stepping ahead with this, or out of line, out of sync? And the answer is no. I think the other entities may pursue this as well, but we feel like given, especially with the Carbon Street project that we're trying to get more defined, the time's right for BB. And we got Becky's definite head nod with that. So I think we've got an opportunity here. Really, we're looking for the head nod. We're not committing dollars yet. We're not amending the budget yet. We're just getting approval to submit the application. So that's what we're seeking tonight.
Trustees.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
Thank you, Joseph. I would entertain a motion to direct.
I'd make the motion to direct you to sign the letter, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Nyberg. Further discussion? And no budget impact this year? According to,
There could be.
Could
We'll
be.
bring it back.
Depends if it hits.
If we do get the grant, we'll bring that back and say, here's the budget impact. Do you approve that budget?
Gotcha. And we were talking to the tune of something like 12.
Yeah,
I think is what you initially said. Yeah.
Between $10,000 and $15,000.
Okay, cool. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Fate,
Yes.
trustee Lucrezi.
Yes.
Trustee Nyberg,
Yes.
trustee Swisher,
Yes.
trustee Vogel.
Yes.
Okay, thank you all very much, and thank you, Joseph. Does that lead us right into the next letter there, Philip?
Yes, I've got two letters in the packet. that I can quickly touch on. Page 122 is a draft letter of support for Chaffey Housing Trust. This is their annual grant application. The board has provided a letter of support every year for maybe the last 4 or 5 years. It allows them to get funding into their operation. They do a lot of subsidy for help with down payment and rental assistance, things like that. So they are seeking the board's approval of that letter of support. Again, that's going into their 2022 cycle. So any questions on that?
Questions?
They do good work.
Will annual presentation or comment from Becky? Will we get that, or is that to come from our liaison? How would you?
So this
from
is
the-
Chaffey Housing Trust, not
From the
Chaffey-
trust. This
not
isn't the
Chaffey
authority.
Housing
This is a
Authority.
trust.
Good
Thank you for the
clarification.
clarification. Thank you.
So this-
Thank you.
This
Yeah.
is Reed McCullough.
This would be Reed. So is Reed going to pop in and see us?
If you would like him, we can.
Love it.
You know, it wouldn't hurt to hear from Reed.
Public comment?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay.
Yep, that'd be fine. We have a new board member. Get to know Reed. He's, and they do great stuff. Don't get me wrong. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion for you to sign the letter.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Fay, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you all very much. I will sign that one. And Philip, you have another one?
The second one is a letter of support for CKS Main Street. They are pursuing a grant, the Colorado Community Revitalization Grant program. Oh, Siri's talking to me. This is a pretty substantial grant opportunity for them. They are looking to build a mixed-use building on Main Street. And they would have a combination of, bottom retail for their retail store, plus a mixture of housing and living units in the second and third story. So a pretty significant build on Main Street. Definitely aligns with when you look at the economic activity, the generation of activity on Main Street. Certainly meets a lot of the things that we have in our code and comprehensive plan. This is a request, again, not for funding, but for a letter of support. They would like to, and that's part of what strengthens this grant application, they would like to have some of those housing units available for their workforce. They have already indicated, I think you all probably saw it in some of the public comment on STRs, they're already looking at short-term rentals as a part of their project, as a means to help pay for the overall project. But again, they're looking at this grant to not only provide funding for the overall project, but allow them to use some of the housing units for workforce housing. Now, just want to clarify, that is a component of this grant. It's through OEDIT. If they are awarded the grant based on having workforce housing, they will be held to keeping that use intact for at least 10 years. That's the conditions of this grant. It's not administered or overseen by the town. And so I just want to make sure that's clear. And but again, I think it gives them that opportunity to achieve that. Plus, definitely a positive overall for Main Street. So I'll pause and take any questions.
Any questions?
I have a question. So to help pay for it, they want to utilize it as a short-term rental. Okay.
Correct. So it will connect in with the old brothel building. If you're familiar with that on Main Street, the yellow
Classy, yeah.
and remodeled. They've purchased that. They're looking at building a building next to that, and they would use. They haven't defined how many units yet, but they would be looking to utilize short-term rentals and some of that to help pay for the project. But they're looking for this grant opportunity to mix in workforce housing and make the overall project work.
And that's in the MUMS zone. Anyway, but they have to do short terms there, they have to ask, they have to get a, again, it escapes me. What's that?
Special use permit.
Thank you.
They want to maintain that historic building.
Yes.
Yes.
They, because they're looking to attach, there would be some demolition components to the sides of that building. They've been before the HPC about that, so they're in process with that part of their planning.
Any other questions? Motion to direct staff to Philip in particular to give a signature on this document.
I'll make
that motion.
We've got first and the second.
Yeah, there we go. First.
Who do you want, Paula?
Your call.
Nyberg, second. Sorry, Norm. He's going, oh man, don't give him something to throw at me. Further discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Sounds like a cool deal. Thank you very much. Next item is trustee staff interaction. I don't know who all we got here, but we're going to start out with, let's go ahead and start with Joseph. What do you got for us? Boom.
Can I pass?
Yeah. You don't have. Got anything for us? You all good?
I'm all good.
How's things?
Great.
Good. That's all we want to hear. Cindy.
Nothing too exciting. Really enjoyed the water tour. Have toured there before. If I tour there a few more times, a little more will sink in each time. And I was really impressed with Joe Pedri, his enthusiasm, his knowledge and his talent. And of course, I think Sean has that too, but it was really good to see someone so happy and bubbly and extremely knowledgeable. Yeah.
I totally agree. And being you bring up Sean, you're next. What do you have for us?
Hey, everyone. I don't have anything. Great job tonight. I'll catch up with you guys at the next meeting.
Thanks, Sean. Gina.
I just have to second trustee Swisher on the water tour. It was great and excellent to be involved and to have that clarity on what goes on. So.
Everything helps.
Yes.
Yep. Is that all you got?
I think so.
Yeah, they're going to have to come up with more. Libby.
I received a letter from somebody just requesting that we do all we can with affordable housing, workforce housing, because otherwise we're just going to have no servers in our restaurants and that kind of thing. Also, I've gotten a couple of vehement complaints about the post office. And the rates are going way up on the boxes, post office boxes that we're forced to have for those of us who live in town. And, the lines are long and tempers are rising from what I hear. So that's an issue that I'd like to see us address and try to figure out how we can help.
I'll just say that will be interesting, to say the least.
There was a vote a while ago that the citizens said they didn't want mail delivery in town for most of town, and that's why we have the boxes, and that's why we're forced to do it, but the people voted that they didn't want the mail service delivery. And we explored at least that component in quite some depth, talking to the postmaster general or whatever a few times. And there's not much that we can do, but there's probably more that the people can do to pressure the post office.
Yeah, well, we may need to help with that, perhaps.
Post office is short on help, just like every other business in town, and
It's going to go postal.
people that are there are really working.
And I will just reiterate, there isn't a lot the town's hands are tied. There's nothing we can do.
But it seems like you should be able to have another vote.
Yeah, we have not found any record of a vote.
Yeah.
There, and we'll talk about it, but Paul and I have searched, we spent a lot of time on this.
And this was
back.
And that was what was presented from the post office to us saying, hey, you guys took a vote, you blew it. There again, I'll reiterate what Joel said again, citizens will have to instigate that. Not us. Citizens will have to bring that forward and say, oh, okay, let's get a petition, whatever they got to do to get it on the ballot.
I think our citizens, it's a US postal service. I think our citizens will need to engage our post office to pursue, have them come present or talk to them, explain what the options are.
Yeah, not a town hall meeting. I almost said that. Not a town hall meeting. It's a town meeting. Did they end up closing the one in Poncha Springs?
No.
Did they change the zip code?
There was some friction there. I don't know where that landed.
That got scary for a while there. People in Poncha Springs were going to have to change their address because they pushed and the post office pushed back.
Cool.
So it was really interesting. It was kind of weird, actually. It was kind of weird. Yeah, so I'd like to say, and I respect the whole thing. It's not our position. That's the best way I can put it. There's nothing really we have any say so over it whatsoever. Like I say, it's federal level. They'll have to jump into it a different way. They'll have to hire legal. Not this one necessarily. You just said no. Do you have anything else? Libby?
No, that's it.
Okay. Mr. Volpe.
I got nothing.
Joel.
I have, so Arizona Trail project is inching along, but it's still progressing. So that's a good thing, you guys. We're just wrapping up a few things. So still hopeful this fall we'll be able to put some out for bid and spring construction. And then we've been assured that we've been presented with a timeline for the installation of the decorative lights. And unless something is awry, by the end of October, we might have decorative lights in, if that timeline is, goes according to plan. So that's exciting as well. Halloween lights.
Cool.
That's all I have.
Mark Doring.
Nothing tonight. Go Broncos.
Thank you. Michael, do you have anything you want to add for us?
Nothing to add tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Michelle?
Yeah, I had put in the chat box that the Board of Trustees budget for travel and training was $2,000. That is the proposed 2022 budget. The 2021 budget is $1,500. So that's where we're at.
Not a lot, but we hardly ever touch it. I think the only thing we ever use our budget for is for a food for a meeting. All right.
That's the meetings budget.
A different budget line item.
Oh, is it? So see, that don't even count. So we've got room. We've got money. Dave will spend it.
Got it.
Thanks, Michelle. Do you have anything else?
You're welcome. Nothing else.
Norm.
Couple things. Sean, you still on there?
Nope.
Oh, he went. Oh, he
Yeah.
was there.
Yep, I'm here. Hey, Norm.
Are they gonna bring that contractor back on those streets? Raymond and Susan and
Yeah,
Robert?
yeah, that's what I was told when I talked to him last month. Hopefully the weather holds out. I'm hoping to hear something this week to see what their schedule is.
Okay. I was hit with the same questions Libby was about the post office too today. And the letters that we asked water bill didn't make much of a dent in some of the lawns around town. You know, the upkeep. So that might be something that code enforcement needs to check into.
Yep, they've gone into the process, the ones that haven't complied, so.
Is that weeds or?
It was an interesting spring, I'll say early summer. It was killer. Thank you. Anything else, Norm? Nope. Thank you. Earl.
Yeah, nothing much more than welcome Gina and welcome Joseph to the team. It's awesome to have you. And go BD Demons and go Ducks.
Hey, thanks, Earl. It looks like Dean is gone.
Yeah, he had to go help us a lot of PD. I got a call.
Oh, there you go. We interact and like I say, their time is, them guys are hopping all the time. Paula?
I have nothing.
Hey, Jeff, do you want to interject?
No, I had a really good time today. You guys gave me a great assignment this afternoon. I looked through about 18 banker boxes full of your old legal files. That was one of my highlights of my legal career.
They say that's what you're supposed to do when you get an IRS audit, is put them in a hole.
Yeah, right.
Really cold, dark.
Yeah. So I think I went through like all the town's old legal files for like probably something like 1970 something or other. There were some files that were that old, and other than like inhaling a lot of dust from them in the storage, I think we're able to get rid of a bunch of stuff. So we were saving a few and kind of hopefully broke it down so you have a little more room in your storage space wherever you were. Other than that, one thing that actually did strike me a little bit was how many lawsuits that the town actually was in back in the day. It was actually really surprising to go through all these old lawsuits. And so I'm gonna knock on wood while I'm saying it, we've been able to hopefully avoid, a lot of that cost for you in the last decade or so. So hopefully that.
I don't know what was prior to, but I know what we were, and then you go, handshake deals just don't cut it.
Yeah.
Sooner or later, they catch up with you.
Well, you have a lot of things on your burner right now, but hopefully you can get through them all without lawsuits coming out of them. So it was interesting to look at them. That was my fun day today. So other than that, it seems like it's relatively smooth sailing.
Cool.
Legal front.
Did you copy them all, fish and all that?
I've got them all memorized. I read every word.
There we go.
Yeah.
Got it handled.
Yeah, no, we're saving some that I think are important. And then I think your staff's gonna look through some I wasn't sure about, but the other ones are, like 40-year-old files. I don't think. So.
I don't know. Accountants say keep them in perpetuality.
You can't, just can't.
Well, you can have one file that we think you can get rid of and you can keep them. Another one that you think you want to keep. Obviously, I have a hard time getting rid of stuff myself. And it's hard to make a call whether you need it or not. The minute you throw it away, you need it.
Just saying.
But we have a retention schedule that you follow for legal documents, and for other documents, I tried to follow the schedule based on what document I saw. But I spent most of the afternoon doing it, and unless you wanted me to spend the next month doing it, I had to be sort of quick with my decision making.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And that came out of Philip's budget anyway.
Fine.
Just saying. Okay, begins Philip's up. Philip.
Hey, bear with me here just for a second. I want to give a few recognition things here. So one recognition to Michael Hammond. Our internet in this building went down yesterday morning, and he scrambled all day yesterday and all morning. We were afraid we were going to have to move you all to a bunker somewhere. No, go fully virtual, which we don't want to do right now, especially with some of the important conversations. But he was able to get the internet back up early afternoon today, so we avoided. It's been a stressful time, but great job, Michael, for sticking with that. I know everybody appreciates our ability to meet in person. Paula and Sean and Lillian are digging in a bit more. Oh, that's on the cemetery. They are working more. They've engaged some of the some community members that have shown interest, and I think we are finding out so much interesting stuff about how other communities, especially our size, are managing and paying for and operate their cemeteries, and that is extremely informative. And so anyway, I think at some point in the not too distant future, I think staff will update you on some of that. A group of us are going out in the morning to do some additional cleanup, and the park staff's been out there the last few days, really at it. So I think there's opportunity for the board to get an update on the cemetery, understand what some of the other entities are doing, and then also just kind of reset or talk about expectations of the cemetery, because we got a mix of things, expectations and ways to operate that. So anyway, I appreciate the staff kind of staying committed to that. It can be a challenging topic. It's emotional for people that are going through that stage of life, losing a loved one. And so just really commend Paula and Lillian and our public works staff for digging in, and I say digging in again, engaging with people in those situations. It's not always easy. So they do a fantastic job with that. And then finally, our planning department has been working on some additional, targeting opportunities to get more housing units. They've been looking at with some suggestions from our highway commercial property owners, the addition of apartments into that zoning district, the highway commercial zoning district. So that's going back to our planning commission, October 6th, I believe, Joseph. Yep. And so they got public notice out to all those property owners to come in and talk at the P&Z meeting. But again, a great opportunity to expand the ability for people to add workforce housing through apartments and on their properties in the highway commercial district. So there's nuances to consider how to do that well, but proud of our teams for pushing code changes ahead, which I think the board's always been, hey, if you see an opportunity to get something done with looking at a code change, let's hear it. So they're bringing that forward. So just a heads up on that.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, Philip. My comment is a response to an email that we received questioning possible, let's say, actions or non-actions or questions or non-questions of the board to staff. And it pertains to housing, short-term policy, housing altogether. In my tenure, the county and the town have been highly involved in, going back to 2015, we did regional estimates on housing demographics, which pushed the start for affordable housing discussion in our arena and in the county. The housing needs assessment was put out in 2016. And at that point in time, the term STR was not, I don't even believe, invented yet, if I want to put it that way. There may have been short-term lodging or something to that effect, but it was never short-term housing. And that document is available online, by the way, if anybody wants to dig into it, or will take the time to do so. That needs assessment also helped us form the Housing Policy Advisory Committee, which all-inclusive in the county. All of the entities jumped in to help address that housing assessment. And at that point in time, housing without short-term rentals even involved, we were 100 to 200 a year behind. We had to pound that many out just to stay ahead of housing. That was the needs assessment, which actually brought into fruition of us, love it or leave it, Collegiate Commons 48 unit was the best jumpstart we had as a town to try to address some of those needs. Then at that point in time, we joined together again, town, county, HPAC established the housing director position, which was a very good move for all involved, took us in a good direction. Then we elected the Housing Authority in 2020, replacing the Housing Office. Again, you can see that that is all posted on the internet if a person is willing to dig into that and look for it. The Housing Authority has been will continue to be the source of data, which we've already mentioned tonight. we bounce things off them. The letter of, hey, guys, this is what's presented. This is where we want to go. Joseph sees things and what do you think? So, we're doing things. I'm not going to say that we're not. At no point in time, as far as we have been able to see and has been presented to the board or anybody, that short-term rentals and lack of housing are associated. It may impact cost of housing, but it doesn't impact the availability of affordable housing. So it's hard to put those two together and say, that is our problem. It's just really hard to make that happen. The town of Buena Vista is looking at certain things and they are tracking usages. It's going to constantly change. We know that. It's really hard to, and actually, I wish Devin was here. He was the first one to say it in a meeting, I'm going to say 2 months ago, that when he moved here, he could not get housing. And what was that, 5-6 years ago? Something to that effect. Had nothing to do with short-term rentals. There was no housing at that point in time. So for us to comment or question staff as to what the availability of housing is, or rental housing for affordable housing, however you want to put it, how does short-term impact that? It was going on long before short-term, just long before short-term. So I just wanted to respond to that comment, just saying, I can't put the two together myself, and I don't think anybody really can. Is there probably somewhere that they may intersect? I think maybe out there, but a long ways away. I don't think you can really associate one issue with the other one. I think really what we're doing with our short-term discussion, how does it impact town? What do you want your town to be? The housing is a problem. Not everywhere. And it's not just here, but if we don't do something, that's where it comes in. And then we have to start somewhere with the appearance of town and what you want the town to be. Where the affordable housing side of it is going to be a work in progress. I hate to say it, Joseph, but you're bringing stuff forward. We've got property we're working on, we're looking at, we're trying, we're doing our best. As for tracking all of this, there's no regulations for tracking long-term. There's no data for the use. It's, it just hasn't been there. If we didn't have a way to find short-term rentals, it wouldn't be there either. It just wouldn't be there either. So there's certain things that really make sense and things that don't. And to question staff on why are you not telling me availability of long-term housing and this and that and the other thing compared to short-term doesn't make sense in the discussions we're having now. And that's the only response that I personally can have for that question. Board may have another one, but that's my response.
Thanks for addressing it.
It just makes sense to me. I don't see there's any other way around it. Jeff, when it comes to town postings, does that have to be in a written format?
You mean postings in what?
Meeting postings, ordinance postings, public hearing postings.
Yes, so the typical, for your typical board meeting, you need 24 hours is to be noticed in writing with your agenda at the posting locations you declare in January every year. I'm not sure what they are. And on the website now too, I believe. Right. And then depending upon what kind of public hearing you're having, there may be certain statutory or code provisions that require certain kinds of notice in the paper, posting the property. Just depends upon what you're actually doing.
Okay. And Dave, you had a.
Oh, yeah, just clarification of it's decided in January where the posting locations are?
Yeah, your first meeting in January, you usually have a vote you just basically approve the agenda posting location. I don't know where they are.
Usually town hall, we used to do the library, post office, website. The laws and statutes, I guess, are changing. So they're really pushing it to more online postings. So at some point, I think the requirement will be the website or something like that.
Just the website.
Just the website.
Right.
Right, and actually, right now, you can do that.
Okay.
It's just,
I didn't mean to hijack
No,
your tangent, but can we talk about that during budget season? Or budget or January sometime before? I know that we're currently spending thousands of dollars publishing in local publications that may not.
you don't have to publish your agendas for your regular meetings. Your agendas have to be posted, like, just, like a piece of paper on the window.
Right, they don't have to go into like a newspaper or anything like that.
No,
That is
no.
just a posting somewhere.
But for certain public hearings, you'll have in your code, and it may be dependent upon the statute itself.
Right.
Saying you need to publish this in the newspaper twice prior to the budget, for example, has, I think, a publication requirement in the paper. That's statutory. You can't change it. You may have some land use postings, publications in your code that you may be able to alter that aren't required by statute. So we should look at, how to save money that way.
Yeah, maybe we can review that.
That'd be great.
In the precursor to budget, if that makes sense. Okay, thank you very much. Anybody else have anything else?
Looks like Mark came on.
I have one more thing. I forgot because I didn't write it down.
Hey, it's only 9:15.
Okay. Michelle, during her report, she mentioned part-time help. It would be a replacement, not additional. Do we as a board need to approve that, or is it just like you post a position for hiring?
So we're not looking at adding to the budget.
So you guys can do that
We can do
internal
that,
without
right.
us approving.
Now, if you have concerns about utilizing the existing budget in that way, absolutely. You guys can speak up to that, but we're not adding any.
Okay,
expense to
I
the
just didn't want you guys needing help and we didn't address it.
Didn't address it.
Okay.
budget. Appreciate that.
Because it was a position that was there that disappeared. Now we're going to subsidize, and actually he's taking care of that, and we're just looking at bringing in that part-time. Mark, did you have something you wanted to speak to?
I did, just on the posting discussion. So last year we had proposed just posting at town hall. For our public notices, we removed the posting for the library. So we post at town hall. At the post office, there's a message board out front on the north side that we post on, and we post on the web. Our Unified Development Code requires at least 15 days in advance of a public hearing that we provide notice in the newspaper. Because our newspaper is published on Thursdays and our meetings are either on Tuesday nights for the board or Wednesday nights for the Planning and Zoning Commission, or on Thursdays for the Historic Preservation Commission, it gets a little challenging, particularly because the local paper's deadline to submit those legal notices is actually the Friday before the Thursday that it comes out. So we're looking about 23, 24 days before we can have a hearing, getting that in the paper. So that is a fairly significant delay once we're ready to have a public hearing.
Yeah. And so if we can look into that, I think you're thinking that statutory that we have to do it in a written or a type print.
It depends on exactly what you're doing, whether it's zoning or subdivision. You have to kind of compare and make sure.
Gotcha.
I don't have each one memorized.
Right, exactly. And that's something we can look at down the road. Norm.
Yeah, and if we make changes to the UDC, we'll have to go through our process to take those proposed changes on postings in our chapter 16, our UDC, to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and then bring it to the board as required by our code. So
Right.
there's even some process to change the code around how much posting and how we do our postings, because we do specifically call out those posting requirements for public hearings, not just public meetings, but public hearings on items that go to the Planning Commission and the Board of Trustees.
And some of that is statutory.
Some of it is, right? Yeah, I mean, the entire point of having notices that it provides due process to the applicant and the public, and you don't have to provide more than you're required to. You just got to provide, a reasonable amount. So it will depend upon where it's the source of the requirements.
We could bring to the board some alternatives, ways to do that, probably effective ways to make sure that our public's engaged and meaning the spirit of that and everything. So yeah, we can bring that during budget
I
discussion.
think you could run that F-16 over.
That's what I was thinking.
Ooh, yeah.
And run a little prop plane with the bulletin behind it and everybody be looking up and go, what's that? Those were cool, man.
Was
Those
that
guys shook the town. didn't they?
today?
Did you notice?
I noticed.
I hear 'em.
Today there was one and the other day there was two of them. Man, they rattled the town. That was pretty cool. Norm.
Mark, what's the latest on the census?
The census has released their data. I haven't had a chance to get much into it yet, but they have released their information based upon the census. And I think the magic number that they came up with was 2,850 approximately, which based upon the state demographer's information would actually meant we lost population from what the state demographer has been estimating. So I anticipate we'll probably have to have a conversation with the state demographer. And, you know, maybe it's just a result of not a lot of people turning in their census forms.
Crazy, huh? I have nothing else. I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a move.
Or second.
I had a second somewhere. Oh, there it was, Gina. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.